this is my review of Joker. Okay, so this movie was interesting. So I'm a little bit late. I know that. I'm a lot late. I know that. I was planning to see it with my friend, but he wasn't around. So yeah, I wound up just watching it with my sister, with my sister and her boyfriend, 2-3 weeks later. Um, but yeah, I'm late to this film. I know that. I know people have already picked this film apart a lot by now. But I don't care. I avoided all of that, and now I'm going to do a review about it, even though I'm several weeks late. So the thing about Joker is that in the comics he never gets an origin story. The only origin story I know of that was canon-ish, the one that's most accepted is his Red Hood one, where he was the Red Hood. He got into a fight with Batman, and then he fell into a vat of acid, which permanently turned him into the Joker. That's what's his accepted origin story is. But the thing about the Joker is that even he isn't entirely sure if that's the true origin story or not, and pointing out that if he's going to have a past, it might as well be multiple choice. This version of Joker is a little bit different. So it's established right from the start that this version of Joker, named Arthur Fleck, he played by Joaquin Phoenix, he's got a mental disorder. He's always had a mental disorder where he will laugh at inappropriate times and doesn't accurately describe what he's feeling, and he's also getting therapy for it, and he's also getting therapy for the fact that he's depressed and possibly suicidal all the time. Because the thing is, for his day job, at least for the first couple of minutes of the film, he works as a clown. He works as an entertainer who gets paid to do odd jobs here or there, and which results in him eventually getting mugged at the beginning of the film, and he gets a gun from one of his coworkers to protect himself, which is a bad idea because as the name of the film implies, Arthur will eventually become the Joker. And case in point, he also kind of takes care of his mother, although it's revealed later that his mother might not have been the best person. I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, he eventually the gun falls out of his pocket while he's doing a performance at a children's hospital, and he gets fired for it because he shouldn't be bringing a gun anywhere near children. At this point, a group of people begin to start mugging him, begin to attack him and verbally abuse him, because his disorder kind of kicked off at the wrong opportunity and at the wrong time. He was kind of just in the wrong place at the wrong time when his disorder kicked off, and eventually, and just in a blind rage, he kills all three men that were bullying him, and then walks away and goes back to his hotel room and back to his apartment room with his mother. So yeah, he does eventually admit to it later in the film, but it doesn't get. But between that point and the point at the end, he starts to go into a bit of a downward spiral, which eventually results in him owning up to it, and it's not great. So throughout the story, he slowly begins to deteriorate as a person. Also throughout the film, he begins to realize that his mother wasn't the best person. At first accidentally reading one of her letters to Thomas Wayne, who she used to work for, that he might be Thomas Wayne's illegitimate son. But he begins investigating that, and eventually finds out that she's even crazier than he is, and actually had been bringing in a bunch of men, and her boyfriends would constantly abuse him when he was little, and she kind of just let it happen because she's crazy. And also during this period, he decides so the Joker's dream is similar to the comics, is that he wanted to be a stand-up comedian, which is why he's the Joker. So he wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but the thing is that he doesn't really know how to make people laugh. So he started taking notes on it, and eventually decides and eventually decides after his breakdown, you know what? I'm gonna finally try my hand at being a comedian, and he bombs horribly. And here's the thing, Joker grew up watching the Murray Franklin show for a long time. He admired Murray Franklin, almost seeing him as like a dad who kind of walked out on him, and he never really met his real father, which explains all the boyfriends that wound up beating him. So he always saw Murray Franklin as a bit of a father figure. But then, when his mother is admitted to the hospital because the police are investigating him because of what he did, and they can't concretely pin it to him, she has a stroke and winds up in the hospital. At which point he sees the Murray Franklin show, and Murray Franklin is just tearing into his act, completely destroying it, and pointing out how much of a joker he is, which is where he winds up getting the name from. And that kind of also destroys his sanity a little bit, which also plays into his overall mental state, which is slowly deteriorating as we speak. And kind of as a coping mechanism, he develops a relationship with one of his neighbors, which isn't actually real, and it's revealed later in the film that he made the whole thing up. So he quickly realized, and we as the audience don't realize this until much later. But eventually he realizes that there's nothing wrong with him. Well, I say realizes, but there clearly is something wrong with him. And the fact that the funding for his therapy kind of got cut because of the political reasons, and for some reason or another the funding got cut and got allocated elsewhere. He hasn't been taking his medication for a while, so that also plays into his mental state, and he slowly starts to deteriorate into the Joker. At which point Arthur finally snaps and kills his mother with a pillow while she's in the hospital, pointing out while also stating that he realized that there isn't anything wrong with him, and also begins to believe that his life isn't a tragedy but a comedy, believing that tragedy is funny to him. And he even states as much later in the film, and then kills his mother. And also during this, his acts, I guess, has gone viral, and Murray Franklin brings him on as a guest, and just before this, he begins to turn himself into the Joker, make himself up, dye his hair green, put on the traditional purple jacket. His co-workers show up, one of which being the one that gave him the gun, and offer their condolences. And then Arthur kills the co-worker that gave him the guns, believing him to be the cause of all of his mental problems. That's what causes him to finally snap and become the Joker. He had already started to be the Joker, but killing his mother was what tipped him off, and then he started killing people mercilessly. At which point he's confronted by the police, and he causes a riot on a subway, which causes the police to lose him, and then he goes to hit his thing at the Murray Franklin show. At which point he tells Murray Franklin to introduce him as Joker, which is where he starts to call himself the Joker at this point. And then he goes onto the show and admits to killing the three men, pointing out, and also points out that he believes society doesn't really care about him. And in truth, it doesn't. It just kind of goes on without a pitch, and it just looks at him and tramples him to the dust, more or less. And also points out that people in general are just horrible. And also points out that Murray Franklin, at least according to Arthur, was just bringing him onto the show to make fun of him, which he was, kind of, sort of. He brought him onto the show just to make fun of him and his career, because making fun of him actually went viral. At which point he shoots Murray Franklin in the face and is arrested, while at the same time, and as he's being escorted away in the squad car, he looks around and sees all the anarchy that he's caused, and he laughs. Genuinely laughs. He looks around, sees the destruction he's causing, and realizes that he's responsible, and that's funny to him. Because at this point, he's become a broken man. He doesn't care anymore. He says as much in his interview on the Murray Franklin show. However, the riots soon cause him to get into a car accident, and he's then freed from the car accident by some of the people he inspired because of his actions, which has resulted in him being pulled out of the vehicle, and basically he's turned into a martyr at this point. However, during this scene, it's also revealed that Arthur Fleck is at least somewhat responsible for the death of Martha and Thomas Wayne, and he inadvertently created his own nemesis. At least indirectly, yes, but he did indeed create Batman. So, yeah, that was the main thing to take away from the ending of the film, and also that he kills his therapist. That's how the movie ends. He kills his therapist and walks away. But the movie's good. I don't imagine this being accepted as the canon origin story of the Joker or any of that. But the way the movie was handled, it works. It works as an origin story for the Joker, and I like that. It's simple. It's nothing. It's like nothing groundbreaking or anything like that. It was just a guy who got emotionally abused by his mother and physically abused by her boyfriends, and because she had a dissociative disorder, she genuinely believed that he was the illegitimate son of Thomas Wayne, which he even tries to confront Thomas Wayne about in the movie, only to find out that she had made the whole thing up and he wasn't actually who he thought she was, and also that he's adopted, so it wasn't even his mother to begin with, which is still sad. But the fact that she lied to him basically because she didn't know how to tell him the truth and couldn't tell him the truth because she was crazy, that was what eventually drove him over the edge, and that's what turned him into the Joker. So while all the origin story in the film is nothing groundbreaking in terms of storytelling or anything like that. It's your typical origin story about somebody who was in an abusive household, and it eventually broke him and turned him into a psychopath. It's nothing new, but the way it's handled in the film, it starts to make you feel for the guy who literally cuts his face off for shits and giggles in the comics, and I like that. It somehow made one of the most diabolical people in all fiction relatable, and that is amazing. So yeah, Joker was great. I don't recommend you taking your kids to see it because it's not that kind of film, but if you have like some teenagers or something, or if you just want to see it yourself, then be sure to take them to see it. It's a good movie. I think they will like it. I think you guys will like it. And yeah, it's just an interesting film. I liked it. It was it's different, and also it kind of establishes an indirect relationship between Batman and the Joker that goes deeper to them than just being rivals. So yeah, watch it for that reason, and also if you want to see it, and also it's a great film to just explore a psychological break. It explores the idea of a psychotic break and psychosis in general, and in that regard, it also does that very well. And it just so happens to be themed around Batman and the Joker, and it is a very good standalone film, playing the Joker as the main protagonist, which I didn't think they would ever be able to pull off because the Joker just kind of doesn't feel like that kind of guy who could ever play the main character. Because the few times he has played the main character, it wasn't exactly like this. It was kind of like this mental warp thing. It wasn't exactly the Joker that you would come to know and love, and by the end of those storylines, he would eventually turn back to his old ways. So it was a different. So yeah, this film just kind of showed the Joker going from somewhat crazy to full on psychopath in a matter of 2 hours, and it's great. So yeah, that's my take on Joker. Hope you guys will consider watching it because of this review. It's an interesting little film. I liked it. I hope you guys will like it. And yeah, just go check out Joker. It's been in the theater for a couple of weeks, and based on my time in the theater, I don't think it'll be in there for much longer because it doesn't seem to be doing well at this point. It was very successful at the beginning, but now I'm realizing that fewer and fewer people are going to watch it each week. So it may not be in the theaters for much longer, so go see it while you can. Or pick it up when it goes on DVD or something like that. But anyway, yeah, if you guys are going to see Joker, let me know in the comments. Or if you've already seen Joker and want to share your thoughts on it, let me know in the comments as well. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month, and it really helps me out, so I definitely appreciate if you did that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!